Hi, my name is Carla, and I am a stress management and relationship coach. And I decided to hop on and do this because this has just been resonating with me, and I wanted to tie in 8 parallels of domestic abuse, domestic violence, and show you how they parallel Trump's mega movement. October is coming up, and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. 1 out of 4 women are victims. 1 out of 9 men are victims of a domestic violence. This is a safety issue. And what I see now is our country absolutely mirroring a domestic violence situation. I have been a case manager before, worked with women who have been victims of domestic abuse. I have had friends who have been victims of domestic abuse. And oftentimes we don't realize that what's happening right now with us, it is a safety issue. And sometimes I just want to speak to the women and some of you men, you need to listen and understand too, so you could see just how this impacts us as women. When I heard Hakeem Jeffries mention at the Democratic convention about, bro, we broke up for a reason, and he was likening Trump to an old boyfriend we just can't seem to shake, bells just went off in my head, and I took it to the next step where you have someone who doesn't want to leave, a partner who says if you leave, they're going to take you out. So I understand how paralyzing this could be for some people, but I wanted to make the correlation, the parallels between a domestic violence behavior and how that ties into Trump's MAGA movement. And it's scary. The 8 characteristics, just so you know off the top, I'm going to cover them after this, but the 8 characteristics behavior that are common that you can parallel with domestic abuse, domestic violence, and with Trump's mega movement. Number 1, control and domination. Number 2, emotional and psychological abuse. Number 3, intimidation and threats. Number 4, physical abuse. Number 5, manipulation and exploitation. Number 6, you minimize and denial. Number 7, charming and manipulation of others. And number 8, monitor and surveilling. So we're going to hop right into here so I can just show you the parallel, the comparisons, and you make your own determination. But here we have control and domination. The first one under that, we have isolation of the victim. In an abusive relationship with a partner, the partner likes to keep the person, away from family, friends, and support system because they need to maintain control. They need to maintain control. Let's look at what the MAGA movement looks like. Trump and his movement often encourage a narrative that isolates their followers from mainstream media, labeling it as fake news and urging them to only trust sources that align with their views. And this creates an echo chamber where only Trump-approved information is accepted. And then we have financial control. The abusive partner normally restricts access to money or prevent the partner from working, therefore creating dependency. Then you have the MAGA movement. Trump's economic policies, such as tax cuts, primarily benefit the wealthy and have been criticized for increasing economic inequality, which can create financial strain for the average supporter, making them more reliant on Trump's promises of financial improvement. And then you have decision-making power. An abusive partner makes all the major decisions without consulting the partner. And then in the MAGA movement, Trump has been known to dismiss expert advice and push through decisions based on his own just judgment, often disregarding democratic norms or the advice of seasoned professionals, which mirror the unilateral decision making seen in abusive relationships. The other one we have is emotional and psychological abuse. We have gaslighting. An abusive partner manipulates the partner into questioning their reality. Have we seen that? Trump frequently uses gaslighting tactics such as denying statements he made, rewriting events, and spreading misinformation, causing confusion and making people question what is real. Then you have blaming and shaming. What that looks like in an abusive partner is they blame the partner for problems in the relationship. It's their fault why they hit them or did something. In the MAGA movement, Trump often blames others, immigrants, Democrats, the media, for the country's problems, diverting responsibility from himself and his policies. And then you have verbal abuse. An abusive partner uses insults and demeaning language to undermine self-esteem. In the MAGA movement, Trump's rhetoric has been filled with insults, name-calling, derogatory language towards opponents, minorities, and even his own allies who disagree with him, creating a toxic environment that undermines respect and civil discourse. Then you have intimidations and threats. Threatening violence. An abusive partner uses threats of harm to control the partner. I remember for my friend and other women who I've spoken to, there was that underlying threat that their partner did. In the MAGA movement, Trump has frequently used language that encourages violence or suggests that violence might be necessary. Keep in mind his response to the January 6th Capitol insurrection, where he encouraged his followers to fight like hell, is a prime example of this behavior. And then you have displaying weapons. An abusive partner intimidates by showing off weapons. I had a person, their partner worked in the law enforcement field, and they will pull out their gun frequently to keep them in check, or just let them know there that there's the possibility that he may do something with that. And so the MAGA movement, the embrace of the gun culture, and militias within the MAGA movement, often with Trump's tactic approval, mirrors the intimidation tactics used in abusive relationships, where the mere presence of a weapon can control and terrify. And you see time and time again that is used. And then you have destroying property. An abusive partner breaks or damages belongings as punishment. And the MAGA movement, the Capitol insurrection, involved the destruction of government property, a symbolic act of rebellion against what Trump and his followers viewed as illegitimate government, much like an abuser destroys property to send a message of power and control. Then we have physical abuse. We have hitting, slapping, or beating. I've seen the results of that. An abusive partner engages in physical violence to dominate. I have seen women with bruises. I have seen my friend whose person worked in the Justice Department knew where to hit her so they left no marks. But an abusive partner engages in physical violence to dominate. Let's see what that looks like with the MAGA movement. While Trump himself isn't physically violent, his rhetoric has emboldened others to commit acts of violence. The insurrection on January 6th and the numerous instances of violence at MAGA rallies are example of how his influence has led to physical harm, where we can't even have a discourse sometimes because some people are going to now take it physical. And then you have sexual abuse. What that looks like with an abusive partner, their forces or coerce sexual acts. In the MAGA Trump movement, Trump has been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women. His dismissal of these accusations and bragging about his sexual assault on the Access Hollywood tape exemplifies a disregard for consent, mirroring the power dynamics of sexual abuse in a relationship. And then you have, physical isolation, where the abusive power partner restricts the partner's movement, freedom to move. They want to tell you where you're going to go and when. Trump's administration implemented policies like your Muslim ban, family separation at the border, which physically isolated individuals from their families and communities, reflecting the abusive tactic of restricting freedom. And what he's saying now as well is going to create physical isolation as well. Let's look at number 5, manipulation and exploitation, love bombing. Oh, an abusive partner showers you with affection to win trust, especially at the start. Oh, flowers, candies, love bombing. MAGA movement, what does that look like? Trump initially presented himself as a savior who would make America great again, offering hope and promises to disenfranchised groups, only to later exploit these supporters for personal and physical gain. Then you have the cycle of abuse. In an abusive partner, it alternates between abuse and affection, creating a confusing cycle. It's just like, oh, they really love me. They didn't really mean that. What does that look like for the MAGA movement? Trump's behavior often follow a cycle of inciting fear, offering reassurance or promises, then reverting to divisive and harmful rhetoric, keeping his base emotionally invested and dependent on his approval. And then you have jealousy and possessiveness. An abusive partner exhibits excessive jealousy and control. What does that look like in the MAGA movement? Trump has shown possessiveness over his base, often attacking Republican leaders or media outlets who do not show unwavering loyalty and demanding that his followers reject any alternative source of authority and influence. Let's take a look. We just have a couple more. We have minimizing and denial. Denying the abuse. The abusive partner claims abusive behavior didn't happen. He wasn't abusive. I've heard that with my clients, seen the perpetrator. Oh no, they didn't do anything. In the MAGA movement, Trump frequently denies wrongdoing, whether it's his role in the insurrection, the mishandling of the pandemic, or any number of scandals. He minimizes his actions, claiming fake news or labeling investigations as witch hunts. And then you have blaming the victim. Have you seen that before? An abusive partner normally suggests that the partner provoked the abuse. MAGA movement, Trump often blames the victim of his rhetoric, such as the media or political opponents, suggesting they are to blame for the division and the violence, rather than acknowledging his own role in inciting it. And then you have using social or religious pressure. This one resonates so much with me and it annoys me. But in an abusive partner, they justify staying in the relationship using societal norms or religious beliefs. I know for people I've worked with and know they have no support from the religious leaders that they come across, and most of them are men. So it's further proof that sometimes they dismiss that and say, well, your place is to be submissive, or what did you do to annoy your husband? You just need to be a good wife or a good partner. And then That's what they use. But what does this look like with the MAGA Trump movement? Trump has used religion and patriotism as tools to justify his actions, framing himself as a defender of Christianity and American values, pressuring his followers to stay loyal and view dissent as unpatriotic or unfaithful. Now, this one here, number 7, charming. They can charm. They have charm and manipulation of others. They have a public persona versus their private behavior. We've heard how for abusive partner, they appear charming in public, but is abusive in private. Many of the women I've spoken to, their partners may have been leaders in the church, leaders in the community, and so very charming. You would like, I don't believe you that he's abusive or she's abusive, because they are charming and no one's going to believe you. Your church leaders don't believe you. People at work don't believe you. And how does that translate for the MAGA movement? Trump cultivated an image as a successful businessman and a man of the people, which made it difficult for many to believe or accept the more problematic aspects of his behavior. Similar to how abusers hide their true nature behind a charming facade. You know, you do that smile. Again, it's hiding a whole lot. The other thing under this one is grooming allies. Oh my goodness. When they win over your friends and family to isolate the partners. So many times with the women I've worked with and people I know, I have a friend, her ex was a pastor. You know, so it's charming. They win over them, they isolate you, and you look like the bad person in the relationship. It's just like, oh, they're just being extra. You know how they are. So they're grooming your allies. And what does that look like for the MAGA movement? Trump has effectively groomed political allies and media outlets to echo his narrative, further isolating his base from alternative viewpoints and making them more dependent on his leadership. And other things for this one when they're grooming, which is kind of off the point but on the point, is in our society, we're doing everything sometimes for the dollar. We want to get the coverage, so we show foolishness so we can get more ratings, and you allow bad behavior to generate income, and that's going to cost us dearly. Now let's look at the last point for the comparison, the parallel between MAGA, Trump, and domestic violence. You have monitoring and surveillance. And do we see that right now? In an abusive relationship, there's stalking, where the partner is keeping tabs on the person's every move. Got to know where they are, GPS tracking, phone tracking, all of that. Now, for the MAGA movement, while not directly stalking, even though I still remember that image for the debate with Hillary Clinton and him, and he's just walking behind her, that was mirroring this stalking kind of behavior. But Trump continues to encourage conspiracy theories like he did with the QAnon. I can't even pronounce the word. But he creates an environment where followers are encouraged to monitor and report on those things that they perceive as enemies, creating a culture of surveillance and suspicion. And then you have digital abuse. In an abusive partner, they monitor the person's personal accounts or uses social media to control. And we have the MAGA movement comparison. Trump was prolific use of Twitter, X, now his own platform, where he uses it to direct his followers, attack opponents, and spread information, which created an environmental of digital manipulation and control over the narrative. So there you have the 8 parallels between domestic violence and Trump's MAGA movement. Guys, beware, beware. beware. That's all I want to encourage and come out and let you see, because we must learn from these patterns. We've broken up from a toxic relationship for a reason. We can't go back. And so I need you guys to know that if you're in a controlling relationship, it's difficult to speak up because there's fear of reprisal. But the beautiful thing about voting, women, is that your spouse can't see who you vote for when you go to the voting booth. So I know you may not be able to speak out right now because you don't have any economic freedom. You don't have anywhere to go. And so therefore you have to stay in this situation where your person in your life may be spouting some things that aren't true or have believed the lie. But you can vote. Vote for your freedom. Find out in your area, if you're in a domestic abuse situation, the resources that are available there. If not, send me a message. I'll try to see what areas in where you live that are available to you. If you are in if you are in a domestic violence situation, it could be physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever it is, whatever narrative there is. I just wanted to throw that out there. My name is Carla. I'm your relationship doula, helping women bravely birth peace in the pieces of their lives.